Tony Stark spent 11 years trying to protect the world from Doctor Doom across 5 movies with every suit and sacrifice, while everyone called him paranoid. But the craziest part, Tony didn't just fail to stop Doom, he built him. Because today, I'm breaking down exactly how Tony Stark created his own worst nightmare. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're never watching that Endgame snap the same way again. First, let's go back to Age of Ultron when Tony says a line that I genuinely don't think people paid enough attention to. And I get it, the movie is a bit of a mess, but when Tony stands and shows Ultron to Bruce Banner, he says this:
I see a suit of armor around the world.
Sounds like a cold world, Tony.
I've seen colder.
Bruce Banner looked at him like he was insane. He wanted something that keeps Earth safe even after the Avengers are gone, because humanity needs to be saved from itself, and Tony was the guy smart enough to do it. But here's the thing, that is not just Tony being Tony, that is Dr. Doom's ideology word for freaking word. Like, if you read that back without knowing who said it, you would 100% assume the villain was monologuing, because that is the exact same twisted logic Doom uses to justify taking over the entire multiverse in Doomsday. They have the exact same goal and the exact same conclusion. Honestly, the only difference between Tony Stark and Doctor Doom is just the method and the metal mask. Everyone thinks Doom is his exact opposite, but he really isn't, because turns out, Doom is literally just Tony Stark if he never got that Burger King cheeseburger in 2008. Like, he genuinely presented Doom's ideology to the Avengers like it was a school project, and Steve Rogers gave him an F and went home. And the proof is in the last thing he ever did, because the snap that saved the universe, in another timeline, it's the exact moment Doom was born. And this requires going back to Endgame for a second, because I think most people watched the snap scene and understood it emotionally without fully clocking what it meant for the rest of the multiverse. And I get it, people are emotional about it, because I remember the dude to the left of me was bawling his eyes out when he died. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if bro missed the birth of his daughter to see Endgame, but when Tony snapped his fingers, he didn't just kill Thanos, he erased Thanos from 2014, and by Endgame's own rules, established by the Ancient One, and by literally every conversation they have about time travel in that movie, removing a major player from a point in time creates a branch timeline, a separate reality that develops completely differently from that moment forward. So there's a branch out there where Thanos disappeared in 2014 and never collected the stones, meaning Infinity War never happened, nobody turned to dust, and Peter Parker never died in Tony's arms on a planet far from home, no pun intended, and in that branch, Tony never loses. And I need you to think about what that actually means for a second, because the Tony Stark we got in Endgame, the one who retired to a lake house and almost didn't come back, that version of Tony existed specifically because he lost. When Thanos beat him, he spent 5 years carrying the weight of half the universe dying while he was powerless to stop it. And that failure is what humbled him, what taught him that control is impossible and that he cannot build his way out of everything. But in this branch timeline, Tony never learns that lesson, and his obsession grows completely unchecked. He still cracks time travel because he's Tony Stark, and Tony Stark cannot walk away from a problem he can solve. Like, that is genuinely a medical condition this man has, either a curse or a blessing, you choose. But without the humbling experience of losing, he pushes further than anyone should. He starts experimenting with time itself, trying to build the perfect timeline, neutralizing threats before they emerge, editing history like a Google Doc. And of course, he reaches for chaos magic, because Tony Stark looks at the most dangerous thing in the universe the same way a deer looks at traffic, just jumps right into it. But then, something goes catastrophically wrong. The guy who built a suit in scraps and cracked time travel overnight, experimenting alone with forces he doesn't fully understand and nobody around to tell him no, so he gets disfigured. He burned his face so badly that he sealed himself inside that armor and never took it off again. And in that moment, Tony Stark dies, and Doom is born from what's left, which honestly reminds me so much of Anakin's journey to become Darth Vader. Like, I genuinely want to know, did George Lucas copy Marvel? But Tony becoming Doom only explains the creation. It doesn't explain the destruction and his motivation in Doomsday, because Doom didn't just need to be born, he needed a reason to hate and become the villain. And that part isn't Tony's fault, it's Steve Rogers, because at the end of Endgame, when Steve Rogers goes back in time to return the Infinity Stones, the whole mission was to return the stones and come back, and instead he finds Peggy, dances in her living room in 1945, and lives his entire life there. But what none of the characters in the movie saw coming is that Steve staying in the past cracked the sacred timeline, which sent temporal fractures spreading across different centuries and realities, the kind of thing you'd never notice until it was too late. And one of those fractures hit Branch Tony's timeline directly, and he locks himself in a lab and refuses to stop working. And with no other choice, he does what scarred him, combining science and magic to save his universe from dying. Like, Reed Richards is literally the smartest man alive, and I genuinely don't think he could do what Doom is doing here. Combining science and magic simultaneously is like trying to run Fortnite and Minecraft on the same server. It just doesn't work. Except Doom tries to make it work while his universe is collapsing around him. But then, one of those experiments exploded. It kills his wife and his kids, and his universe still got destroyed anyway. So Doom loses everything. Everything he'd spent years building in that branch. All gone, because Steve Rogers wanted one dance. So while Tony's snap created Doom, it was Steve's decision that made him want to burn the multiverse down and rebuild it in his own image. And the person who warned everyone about exactly this kind of decision was already dead before any of it happened. But before I continue, if you're enjoying this video, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot, thanks. And the thing is, Tony actually proved this was going to happen years before Doom and years before Steve's decision with my old enemy AI, because Ultron wasn't just Tony's idea. He was built from Tony's and Banner's brain and Jarvis. Like, 3 of the smartest minds on the planet went into building this thing, and collectively, with all of that intelligence combined, the first thing Ultron decided was that humanity needed to be extinct to rebuild the world in his own image. Like, bro spent 1 hour online and decided humanity needed to go extinct. Like, what files did bro even see?
Yeah, boy.
And think about how insane that is, because they combined the most advanced AI ever built, a genius physicist, and Tony Stark, and the output is basically a fascist. I would call that a result more than a coincidence. And the Avengers watched that happen and decided the problem was the robot, not the reasoning behind it. Ultron was like the Nokia phone version of Doom. You could see what they were going for at the time, but the hardware just wasn't there. While Doom is more like the iPhone 16 Pro, same philosophy, same goal, same ending, but the only thing Doom was missing was a reason to actually use it, and leave it to Steve Rogers to accidentally provide that too. And look, I want to be fair to Steve for a second, because I genuinely don't think he thought of that afternoon as a choice. To him, it probably just felt like finally exhaling after 70 years. The man fought a war, got frozen, woke up in a century where everyone he loved was old or dead, watched his best friend get tortured into a weapon, and then saved the universe. If anyone earned one selfish afternoon, it's Steve Rogers. Let's not forget, bro punched Thanos in the face with nothing but a vibranium frisbee. But here's what Steve didn't know was happening while he was dancing. Because in Doomsday, Doom doesn't just show up as a villain, he shows up as someone who knows exactly what Steve took from him, and he's been planning this for a long time. Doom presents himself as a hero to everyone, gains every hero's trust, scatters them across the multiverse to build incursion-stopping cannons, which is a fake plan, by the way, and then when nobody can interfere, he takes Steve to Doomstat in Latveria, and kills Steve's 10-year-old son Jim in front of him. A father who lost his children is gonna make a father watch his child die. I don't know how you sit in that theater and hold it together. Like, I genuinely don't, because Steve didn't choose to hurt anyone, he just wanted one dance, and 2 children and a mother died for it across universes, and Steve never even knew it was happening until it was too late to stop any of it, because Tony built Doom, and Steve accidentally gave him a reason to become the villain. But in Doomsday, Dr. Doom wins. Like, actually wins, because he lets the incursion consume everything, rebuilds reality from scratch using Loki's stolen World Tree energy, and what he builds is Battleworld, a patchwork planet stitched from the wreckage of every universe that got destroyed. So you've got Asgardian ruins next to Stark Tower, next to the X-Mansion lawn, all fused into one planet under his absolute rule, similar to the Void in Deadpool and Wolverine. So Sam Wilson will wake up not knowing he was Captain America, Thor won't remember Loki, and Steve won't remember Jim. And nobody finds any of it strange, because nobody remembers what strange even feels like. Like, Doom actually pulled it off. The thing Tony spent his entire life trying to build and kept failing at, Doom just did it, all in one movie. Because RDJ as a villain just has that aura to him, and Doom sits on his throne, with Franklin Richards locked in a stasis field directly above him like a dying star powering the whole thing, and he is wearing Tony Stark's face, thinking he's the hero, and like, he kind of is. He has the same brain, same obsession, and same need to protect everyone even if it destroys everything. But the only difference between Tony Stark and Dr. Doom is that Tony had people who loved him enough to tell him when he was wrong, and Doom didn't. And in the sacred timeline, Tony died on a battlefield thinking he won, thinking the snap was the ending, thinking Morgan would grow up safe and Peter could live his life. But he had no idea that saying "I am Iron Man" to Thanos didn't just end a war, it started one somewhere else, because Tony Stark built a suit of armor around the world, and Doom finished it for him. And yeah, what do you think about this theory? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, you better subscribe and check out this video right here.